Hey everybody, welcome back to Living Traditions Homestead. We are starting today in the greenhouse, but that is not where we have work to do today.
We're only in the greenhouse really because we have been temporarily storing all of these berry plants in here until we can get them planted outside. And today I'm super excited because it is berry planting day.
When we originally bought this piece of property, we had big plans to get a garden established, an orchard established, and then a berry plot established. And you guys, over the last couple of years, we've been working hard on that goal. You saw us get our new garden ready. You saw us plant our orchard already about 3 or 4 years ago. Last year we planted grapes, and this year we are planting berries.
I'm sure you can hear that today is a windy day. You can hear it on the plastic of the greenhouse, but we have work to do despite the wind. We're gonna work through it and get all of these berries planted. So let's head over to what will be our new berry patch, take these plants over and get them started. So we're out here in the berry patch area, which has not been developed yet. It's over here, it's completely blank. I'm really excited to expand this whole area to include these berries. Next to me over here is where we have the grapes. Beyond that is the orchard. Beyond that is the garden. Now we're going to be planting blackberries and raspberries in this berry patch right now, and I'm really excited. We have 2 different varieties of blackberries that we're going to be planting. They're all thornless, and then 3 varieties of raspberries. 1 out of the 3 varieties of raspberries is also thornless. I'm very excited about that. Now I wanted to share with you that all of these berries are from Stark Brothers, and honestly all of our grapes are from Stark Brothers, our entire orchard is from Stark Brothers. They are a fantastic company from Missouri. They've been around for a long time, I think it was established in like 1816 or something around there, early 1800s. It's a fantastic company. Even though it is a Missouri company, they ship countrywide and they really have fantastic plants. The one reason, besides the fact that they have fantastic plants, the one reason why I continue going back to Stark Brothers year after year is because they're the only company that has a guarantee on their trees and their plants like this for 1 year, and basically no questions asked. If their plants don't survive for a year from the time that they ship to you, they'll replace them. And that is amazing. Now, we have barely ever needed to have them replace anything because their plants are always so good. It's amazing that they can ship all of these plants like this and they arrive beautifully and healthy. I'm really excited to get them into the ground. So Kevin and I have done a little bit of measuring ahead of time, and we ran a string so that we have our row straight and everything like that. We're gonna get started on this project. The things that we need to accomplish today with this project are we need to scalp the grass because we are starting in like virgin ground here. So scalp the grass, run an entire 100-foot piece of the weed fabric that is 6 foot wide. We'll need to burn all of the holes. We're planting 24 plants today. Plant in every hole, and then we're going to be setting up a trellis system. Now blackberries and raspberries, they don't like climb or vine out like grapes do, but they could really use some structure to keep them from falling over, getting super tall. It's just some structure that I can kind of attach them to throughout the growing season to help give them some strength so they're not falling all over the place. So we're gonna be putting that in today also. So big project, long day. It's a gorgeous day, although windy. So we're excited to get this project going.
So we've decided that we are going to leave a 10-foot strip of grass between our grapes and our berries So the first thing that I'm going to do today is I'm going to actually scalp the grass here. You can see that we've run a string here. Maybe you can see it on the video, I hope so. We've run a string, it's parallel with the row of grapes next to us. So that will leave our 10-foot kind of, I'd say walkway, but a 10-foot path between the two rows. After we do that, we'll get started actually putting down the weed fabric, and then we can get busy planting. Now that we have the grass scalped, it's time to start putting down our weed fabric. We're going to be using the same fabric that we use in a lot of different places on the homestead. This is the DeWitt Sunbelt fabric. Lasts a long time, and we are always just very happy with it. We're going to be using the 6-foot wide fabric today, and because it's so windy, we're going to have to do things a little bit different than we normally do. If it were a nice calm day, we would just lay this down, roll out the whole 100 feet, and then come back and staple it. But because of the wind, we're going to have to like roll out maybe 10 feet at a time, staple it, roll out another 10 feet, staple it. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave this string here that we already ran so we can roll this out in a nice straight line and staple it as we go. We're getting like 20 or 25-mile-an-hour wind gusts. And if we had a 100-foot piece of this rolled out, you guys, it would just be a big sail and it would not be a fun day. So I think this is going to work out a lot better to staple it as we go. We're going to be using 6-inch ground staples. We'll probably put one every 2 feet or so on both sides of the fabric, and then we'll get ready to start planting.
Well, we have the 100-foot piece of weed fabric down. Now it's time for us to start marking where we're going to be planting all of these plants. Now, both the blackberries and the raspberries, the varieties that I've chosen, they can be planted 4 feet apart. So we'll be coming in 2 feet from the end of the weed fabric, go 4 feet down the entire way. That will give us 24 spots to plant. We're going to be running a long tape measure the entire length of the weed fabric, and then I'm going to be using marking paint to spray paint just a little dot every 4 feet where we're going to plant, and then we can burn holes and get started planting.
All of our spots are marked, so now it's time to start actually burning the holes in the weed fabric. We're going to use a butane torch for this, especially on a windy day like this. I have found that a butane torch works quite a bit better than a propane torch, but use whatever you have, especially if it's not a windy day. For these, we're actually going to kind of work together. I'm going to go through and burn all the holes and then start digging, and Sarah's going to come behind me and plant as I'm digging the holes. Our ground is pretty rocky right here, so digging is going to be a chore, I think. We're going to hand dig with just a small shovel because I don't want to have to burn these holes so big that we could use, you know, a full-size shovel. So it's going to be a little bit of work getting this all done, but I think it's going to go okay. So we're going to burn a pretty good-sized hole because most of these plants are in pots that are about this big around. So I'm going to burn a hole about that big because that way we'll have plenty of room to dig the hole big enough to get those plants in.
Start off first by planting all of the raspberries. Now I chose 3 different varieties of raspberries to plant here. One of them is thornless raspberry. The other 2 are not thornless raspberries. The thornless raspberry this year from Stark Brothers came in a bare root. The other 2 varieties came live like this. And so I'll talk you through the different ways to plant both the bare root and the live plants here. Now there are 3 varieties, like I said. The thornless variety, I can't remember exactly, it's called Joan J. Primocane Red. Now all 3 of these are red raspberries, not black raspberries. I'm excited to plant all of them. They're all very good for fresh eating, canning, freezing, and they're all really great varieties. So Joan J. Primocane is the thornless. I also have Prelude Red Raspberry and Heritage Red Raspberry. They're all going to be fantastic. Can't wait to get them in the ground. I'm going to start off today planting the bare root raspberries, and I just want to go over with you how to do that. Now these bare root plants I've had soaking in a bucket of water for a couple of hours just to give them a really nice drink, to soften up their roots and get them prepared to be planted into the ground. Kevin has gone through and made some really nice holes for me here. Nothing special, just a hole in the ground. It is deep enough for me to put this in the ground and the roots down in there. And I'm going to be backfilling with the native dirt, but the kind of crown of this plant here, I'm going to have it be just a couple inches underneath the soil level because that is where all the new shoots will come from. And you want that crown just underneath the soil level a little bit. So now that I have all the roots in there facing downward, I'm going to backfill with this native dirt here, crumbling up any big pieces. I'm going to be pressing that down in there to try to get out any of the air pockets. And because we took the grass out, you see there's kind of like a clump of grass here. I am going to try to get as much of the native dirt off of that kind of clump. To save some of that. And then the very top, I'm going to top dress with a compost and manure combination that you can get from a nursery or from Walmart. We got these from Walmart actually a couple years ago, maybe last year. So I'm just going to top dress with that. Not only will it kind of make up the soil level difference, but it will also give it a really nice start. As it rains and as we irrigate, the water will pass through this compost and all of the wonderful nutrients will go down to those roots and really stimulate some really wonderful new growth. The last thing that we need to do with these bare roots for the raspberries is we need to cut this stick about 2 inches from the ground level, and that is something that Stark recommends. They say don't skip this, it is essential. So I see that there is a leaf node right here, and I am going to just cut right above it, about 1/2 inch above it. That is green in there, so that's alive. What it's going to do is it's going to stimulate this plant to start growing leaves and branches out of this main stick right here, and it will be wonderful. So that's all there is to planting these bare root raspberries. Now I do want to just address that this hole here, it's quite large, and you can see that there is grass all around here, and this is a lot of bare soil. All of this is just a recipe for weeds the rest of the summer and a huge headache. So after we're done planting, we are going to follow the same system that we did with the grapes, where we cut an extra piece of weed fabric bigger than the size of the hole. We cut a slit in the middle of it. We can put that piece around the stem and tuck it underneath the weed fabric in here, and then staple it down. That will prevent weeds from growing up and like encroaching and like choking out your new berry bushes. So when we're finished, that's what we're gonna do. We did it with the grapes and it worked wonderfully. All three of the bare root plants have been planted, and now on to the live potted plants. Everything that we have to plant from here on out is a live plant in a pot. Now Kevin has so wonderfully gone through and made holes for me. They are exactly the size that I need, a little bit deeper than the soil level of the pot, and that will be fantastic. So now these are also thorned raspberries, so I need to be a little bit more careful when handling them because I don't want them to poke my hands. We're just going to take them out of the pot, see how beautiful they are, and we're going to set that down just in the hole, just like that. We're going to backfill with the native soil, just like before. Kind of press it into the sides. Now we may not use all of the soil because, you know, that where the soil used to be is kind of displaced by some of the potting soil. We'll go ahead and press around there to make sure to get rid of any air pockets. Press that down nicely in there. And then I am also going to top these with some composted manure so that they get some really nice nutrients and some natural fertilizer on top there. Now the raspberries can also have their soil level up a little bit from their crown, and so the compost will play that role as well. Now if you remember on the bare root, we would cut this at the ground level, but these live plants, we're not gonna do that. We're just gonna let them do their thing and leave them alone just like they are. I am so excited to have all of these raspberries planted. So that's as easy as it gets. That's how you plant a potted plant in the ground. We're just gonna continue on and plant all the rest of the raspberries. Well, all 12 of the raspberry plants are in the ground, and that is such an amazing feeling. The nice thing about starting with live plants like this that are in pots that you plant in the ground is that there's like immediate results. Like you can definitely see right away that you have plants in the ground. I do like starting with bare roots sometimes too, but the live plants are just an amazing, like, instant gratification. So we are going to be moving on to our blackberries. All of the blackberries that we will be planting are thornless, which is wonderful because blackberry thorns are the worst. The two varieties that we will be planting are Washita and Arapaho. Now the Washita, these berries are a medium to large size berries, and the Arapaho are a large berry with small seeds. Both of them are fantastic. I think the Washita is one that's commonly in the U-pick farms and stuff like that, so I'm really excited for that. But I really like the fact that these Arapahos have small seeds. So Kevin and I are going to get these planted, same procedure as before. We'll burn the holes, dig the holes, and plant the blackberries. So Kevin and I just recently have started bringing our dogs out into this orchard area because it's completely fenced. We have 2 beagles and they normally live in the house. We don't have them outside very often because they love to smell scents of animals and just like take off. And once they're on a scent, they don't want to listen and come home. So this area has become a wonderful place for them to just run around and smell things. And so when we're out here, you guys may be seeing more of them, but they've been really enjoying it. Both Bubba and Rosie are out here today with us while we're planting the rest of the blackberries. Well, this is the last of all of these berry plants. All of the raspberries and all of the blackberries are now in. Now, I would like to think that this is the end of the project, but we have a couple more things. Hey, Rosie! Hey! We have a couple more things to do before we're done with this project. We need to put up all of the fencing so that we can use it kind of like as a trellis. And we also need to put all of the irrigation line down that we're going to use in order to keep all of these berry bushes watered. Well, before we get started putting in the trellis and the irrigation, Kevin and I decided that we would like to first cover up these holes that we have burned in here and cover up all of this wonderful soil so that the weeds do not find their way through here and make a terrible mess and a lot of work for us over the summer. So I'm gonna show you what I explained before that we've already done with all of the grapes. So we're taking a piece of the weed fabric that we cut into a square, and I'm gonna cut a slit into it right here so that it fits around this plant right here. Then I'll tuck it underneath here, underneath this hole, and we will use staples. We will use staples to hold this in place. So I'm just going to show you that. Just cut a hole there. Slide it around that blackberry plant, and then I'm just going to tuck it in that hole. Like that, straighten that out underneath there. Tuck it around there, and then we can just staple that down. And no weeds will grow around this plant, and it will be amazing. So I'm gonna go ahead and slip in all of these squares of weed fabric underneath all these holes, and then Kevin's gonna follow behind me and do all of the stapling. Man, you guys, this wind will just not give up today. So I've changed my plan a little bit of how we're going to be keeping the weeds out of this whole area. The reason why I'm changing is because the way that blackberries and raspberries grow, more and more of their branches basically come up from the ground, from the little rooted area. and I do want to allow them to grow somewhat. So what I'm doing is I'm actually going to cut a longer slit so that the new branches can come up from the bottom and open that up as they grow. So when we put it in initially, it'll be loosely together, but as it grows, it will be able to open that up. Now, in the end, we want to control how gigantic these blackberries and raspberries get. I'm aware that they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they shoot out runners so that they can come up like outside of this area. They can also grow tall and then bend over and tip and reroot there. We know that those are all possibilities, but we don't want that to happen. We want to maintain this row of blackberries and raspberries so that they're kind of well manicured, so that we can stay on top of it and so that it doesn't become too overwhelming. Over time, as we get into more and more years, this area will need to expand because the plants are going to grow, and that's okay. Through the years, I can cut this weed fabric more and more to let this opening become bigger and bigger to grow with the plant. But what we want to do, number one, is suppress the weeds, and number two, control how big they get over the years so that they don't just get so massive and out of control. So as we go through each one of these holes to cover it up, I am going to be allowing kind of a bigger slit in the middle to allow for growth for each one of these plants.
Now that all of the holes are covered up to help protect from the weeds, it is time to start on the trellis. After that, the only thing left is to set up a soaker hose to be able to irrigate these, and then we are finally done. You guys, we started this project about 8:30 this morning. It's now about 10 after 5, so it's been a long day. We've probably got another hour and a half left of this project. I'm hoping maybe we can get it done a little sooner than that, but we'll just see. So for the trellis, we're going to basically do exactly the same thing we have over here for our grapes. We're going to be using cattle panels and T-posts. We have 6 cattle panels already laid out. We're going to be putting in 3 T-posts per cattle panel. And you can see that we put a string right here just a few inches away from the plants. We ran that at a nice straight line so that we can get our panels nice and straight. There's no big secret as to how to put this up. It's basically just like building a fence. We're going to drive in our T-posts, attach the cattle panels, and that'll be it for putting up the trellis. All of the T-posts are in, you guys. After already a long day, thank the Lord for that T-post driver. We have 18 T-posts that we put in here. It took us just over 9 minutes to put them all in. And I'll tell you what, even though that T-post driver is heavy, it weighs almost 40 pounds, so it is a lot of work to put that thing up. It saves so much time over hand driving all of these posts. There was one post, the second from the end, where even with the T-post driver, it took us a couple minutes to get that one in because there was a big rock. We would have never gotten that one in by hand. So I am so grateful to have that T-post driver. The next thing we need to do is actually install the cattle panels. We're going to put these, they're going to be right on the ground, so they'll be just a little bit shorter than these T-posts. But that will give some really good stability. Then we'll hook up our soaker hose and this project will be done. Our trellis is up and we are finally on to the last step, which is installing a soaker hose. This is by far the easiest step of this entire process. We're just going to be using one of these cloth soaker hoses. This is what we used last year to water the grapes, and honestly our entire orchard. We would just move one of these around from row to row in our orchard and just turn it on for a few hours, and it worked great to get them through what really last year was almost a drought summer. It was super hot. We got very little rain, but this got all of our trees through. So we're going to do the same thing here with our berries. We're just going to unroll this. We're going to use a couple of the landscape staples to hold it in place, and then we'll be able to water all summer long. It's been 10 hours since we started this project, but it is finally done. You guys, we were tempted to break this project into 2 days, but we got it all done in 1 day.
We're so excited to have blackberries and raspberries on the homestead. We may not get any berries this year, but next year we'll definitely have berries, and we're so happy to have these perennials. They'll come back year after year and just keep getting better and better.
And you can see how nice it turned out with the grapes and then the berries. And you guys, next year, blueberries, which if you've been watching our channel for any amount of time, you know I eat blueberries every single day. Luckily, we have a really nice U-pick blueberry patch not far from our house, but it sure would be nice to have it right here on the homestead.
If you guys are interested in learning more about the types of berries that we planted today from Stark Brothers, make sure that you look at the link in the description below this video to find out more. You guys, if you're enjoying videos like this, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. And remember, the best way to help us here on the homestead is just to share our videos on your social media. Until next time, thank you so much for stopping by our homestead. Take care, and God bless.
God bless.